Today we're going to be listening to a quick talk from Colton on the Lean CLI GUI. So for years and years and years, we've been asked to create a user interface for Lean. And I'm very happy to say that we've finally done it after 8 years now. And it allows you to do an awesome number of things that Colton's going to walk through and demonstrate very shortly. You'll be able to start screen sharing when you're ready.
Awesome. Hi, guys. My name's Colton. I'm a software engineer here at Quant Connect. And yeah, what I'll be going through today is the Lean GUI. We got a lot of cool features to make this a fully functional local instance of Lean that reminds you of the web interface. So yeah, with that, I'll just get right into it. First things first is really, you do need to be subscribed to the Lean CLI and Lean GUI to use this product on your local machine. But we know a lot of people like to have their stuff local. So that was why we built this option for you. Just to make sure you guys can see my screen, correct? Let's see if I can pull up a chat.
Perfectly.
Okay, awesome. Yes. I do have a chat here. That's great. So the Lean CLI subscription is included in the researcher pack on our products page. And then for the Lean GUI, that's an additional $30 a month for researchers. But again, I think for a lot of people, having everything local is a big deal. So that's why we went this route. I'm going to include the information on getting the Lean CLI set up. I don't want to focus on that for the purpose of this presentation, just so I can get into the good stuff. But I included the documentation link in our chat. And really all it is installing via pip, the Lean package, logging in, and then pulling your project from the cloud. I'm already done that. And what I have here is a folder with my Lean CLI initialized. I can actually just show you if you were to run a init. What it basically does is pull down the data so you're ready to run Lean as a local instance. So once you have the Lean CLI initialized, you can go ahead and just say Lean GUI start. Oh, I have one running, apologize. Little practice run before I got in here. So let's start fresh.
Can you show how to add it to your account?
Yes, I can go ahead and do that. So that is part of the Lean login process. If you do Lean login, it'll ask you to enter your user ID and also your, here, I'll just type in something random, and then your API token. I've already done this and I don't want to show you my information. So definitely do that on your own time. Once you're signed in, you can do Lean Cloud pull and pull down your projects. I have a ton of projects because I'm doing all sort of testing, but as you can see, it's populating my project files from the cloud. So anything you do in the web can be pulled and pushed via the Lean CLI. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop those because we don't need all those for the purpose of this. But once you have your projects, you can go ahead and launch the GUI. It'll ask you what organization that you have subscribed. A lot of people will likely have just one organization, but in my case, I have my personal one, my work one, and then another one that I made just for fun to see the organization's feature and practice. Only my work one is subscribed to the GUI module, so I'll have to select 2. Now, this starts a Docker container. For those of you that are on Windows, Docker, you'll actually see the container start. But as soon as it launches, it actually opens up in your browser. Sorry, I had a browser in another window, so it popped up on there. But it pops up just like the web interface, except for maybe a little nicer, honestly. All of these links here will actually route you to the website since they are external, like getting support from QC Web, the learning, data sets, strategies market, and support. Now, here's the stuff that is local. As you can see, this is a local address. It's running in the Docker container, and I'm just connecting to it through a port. I can open up my projects directly from the cloud, pull down. But the one that I want to focus on today is a simple crypto buying algorithm, especially because I can launch that live at any time. I guess I could launch a regular strategy live, but I specifically put an account with $10 on my Coinbase portfolio so we could see this operate live. So once you're in here, just like the web IDE, you can build and modify your projects. I put this project together, which is just a simple buy and hold of BTC. I did add one parameter, which is an allocation parameter. And by default, it's set to 1. So I'm saying, hey, hold 100% portfolio value in BTC. But I did this specifically so I can show you guys optimization as well. Let's go ahead and just run a back test. I see messages in the chat, and I have a question from Jared to see if adding the GUI. I will jump over to that. So let's just say for my personal plan, what it would look like adding the GUI to your subscription. If you go over to a customized plan, you can pick researcher sheets, your various nodes you're going to have on the cloud. But for this sake, if you're doing everything locally, you won't need these. You can go down to Lean GUI subscription and add it to your cart. It looks like you do need at least the researcher seat, which makes sense because that's how you get access to the Lean CLI. But this would be the bare bones subscription required to use the GUI. Okay, back to the back test. So I did this intentionally. I ran a back test on hourly BTC, and that isn't data that is included in our repo. So to show you guys what downloading is like, I'm going to download BTC data. Now, there's a special note here with equity data. We do require that you have the security master subscription, which is our splits and dividends. If you were to download data without it, it would be basically worthless. The data won't be aligned because it won't be offset by the splits and dividends that have occurred in the past. So it won't even allow it, and it won't allow you to buy the faulty data. So let's just go with crypto for now, which is something that does not require the security masters. So in my CLI, I'm going to use Lean data download, and it will give us a nice process of downloading and adding to cart. Again, I'm going to go through my QC account because that's where all of my funds are. You can select what data type you're looking to download. So I'm looking at financial data, crypto price data. Let's just get the trade data from Coinbase. I'll type in BTC USD. I request hourly. It adds it to my cart. It'll ask you if you want to add more to your cart. In this case, I'm just going to go with just the BTC data. It will pull up a data agreement. Every time you purchase data through the GUI, it will take you to this page. This is just to make sure that you agree to our services. You can't distribute this data, and it is required by our data providers. Once I accept the agreement, we'll see that it will ask me, it'll queue me, say this will cost 400 QCC. Go ahead and accept that charge. And the data has been downloaded, and we can verify that that's there as well, just for the sake of this video. The crypto hourly, and there is the BTC USD we just purchased. Now, if I go back and run this back test again, You can see I bought at the very beginning 100% allocation from our parameter. And this portfolio did well because Bitcoin has had a good year in 2015. So now I kind of want to talk about the optimization feature. Just like the web allows you to use a parameter, there is different strategies, but I just use the grid search for the Sharpe ratio. Now, since this is just such a simple algorithm that's just going to buy and hold, it's not going to have a crazy variance in performance by optimization. In fact, you'll just see that because it's only 10% versus 100% or 20% or 30%, it'll just step and be nice and stacked. But for example purposes, this is nice to see that it does operate in the GUI. Now I'm going to launch this optimization. I went ahead and did this before the presentation because this does take a little bit of time, but you can see it is running the optimization containers and it'll pop up a couple and collect that data, and eventually the charts will show up. But just to save some time, I'm going to open up the previous optimization I ran. So with more variables and maybe something a little more touchy, you would see different results. But as you can tell, these are stacked quite evenly. This would be my 10%, this would be my 100%, and everything in between. Now, another great feature of the Lean GUI is that it also includes our research environment. We can open up the research easily just by clicking on it, just like in the web IDE. It'll spawn a Jupyter notebook for you, and you have access to research. All right, and the next thing I wanted to show you is the live launching. Now I'm going to have to hide this page for a second after I click on Coinbase. Because I'm launching Coinbase, it'll show my API key. But let's see if I can just pause it for a second. Yeah. So I'm going to enter my details. And the share has been resumed. I went ahead and selected my Coinbase brokerage, entered my passphrase, secret key, and key, and we are going to launch the BTC buy algorithm onto Coinbase brokerage. As you can see, it did start up another container. There is the research one. For most people, you won't really want to pay attention to this at all, but I'm just showing that you can see it and control the Docker container starting via Windows interface. Now, I have only $13 in this account, but I did that intentionally so we could have it run. When I had zero, I got errors from Lean saying, hey, there's no money in this account. I can't do this for you, which makes sense. Now, the fact that this algorithm is hourly will not bring in any data till the end of the hour. So what I could do is move it to a second resolution so we can see it actually purchase. Make sure the build's okay. As you can see, it placed the order almost immediately, and I got my fill for 0.0003 Bitcoin. Really, I just wanted to give you guys a solid example of basically doing everything you can in the web IDE, but via your local machine on your own PC, really. It actually brings up the host. I do not, unfortunately, have this much RAM, but everything else seems to be accurate on its reflection of the machine it's running on. I can still access my research terminal because it is still running on the side. And yeah, that is everything about the GUI that I think is the best to show to get you started. There is one thing to stop the containers. You can go ahead and use lean GUI Stop, and it will go about shutting down this web interface.
Hi, Colton.
Yeah.
John S. asks, is the lean CLI any use by itself? Do you need to have the GUI to make the best use of it?
No. So I should say, you don't need the GUI to make use of the lean CLI in this way. I think the GUI really provides an interface for users to remain familiar with what they're experiencing in the web. You can use the CLI to launch cloud backtest and direct backtest. If you look at the link I included in the chat at the beginning, it actually includes cloud synchronization, the launching of backtests locally. You just won't have the charting and anything like that. But really, the GUI just uses the CLI on the back end to keep everything running smoothly. Like in here, you run this backtest directly. It will run the exact same that I showed you in the local GUI. And in that, I'll just show you an example of running the exact same algorithm. So really, you get the log output from the exact same algorithm, just wouldn't be the same as doing it in the GUI in terms of the interface you're dealing with.
And where is the data that you've purchased stored?
Yeah, so I kind of showed you earlier in the crypto data to see that it showed up. All the data will stay localized to this folder. It is possible to change where that directory is, and that would be handled in this config file. But for most user cases, you can just leave it in the data. I know that some of our customers do have data agreements where they get data moved to a certain location and then downloaded. So if you do need to change it, you can here. But by default, it will download our data included in our repo right into the same CLI folder that you initialized in. All right, I'm open for any questions. If you guys want me to show you anything, you have anything in particular you want to ask me, I am watching the chat.
Just one question from Wayne. When you're using the GUI, is there a way to automatically download the data instead of going through the CLI?
Let me see about that, actually. That is a good point. I believe in its current status, there is not a way to download the data directly from the GUI, but you could go through the web interface and download the data through our web portal and then just copy it over to your data folder. That is a good feature, though. That is something that would probably be friendly for a lot of users, not having to go through the GUI at all. One thing that I really enjoy about the GUI is once you have it set up is that it can create a link for you just to launch it. You can see here this shortcut. On first launch, it'll ask you if you want to create the shortcut. So that very first run, lean init, lean GUI start, it'll ask, hey, create the shortcut for you. And once that's set up, you don't have to do it again. Oh, go ahead.
So Mark Alberto has asked, does it come with version control or Git integration?
I do see that. There is no version control with this repo, but it is possible for you to create and initialize a repo inside that this CLI folder if you wanted to, just using git init. Really, I just created a repository. It's not built in, but there is the version control that you could be using with the cloud, and that was the lean cloud push and pull. But it wouldn't be there wouldn't be any version history. It would just be you storing in the cloud and pulling from the cloud. So if you wanted to go about maintaining branches and all that, you'd have to create your own Git repository in the CLI folder. I see a question about custom package environments. You can use custom environments. That is part of the Lean CLI. If you were to use an environment that you create, let me pull that up real quick here. So for C# projects, I do a lot of my projects in Python, but I do just want to add that you can do this with C# projects. Let's look at a project that I have in here that is for sure C#. You can actually use this CLI command, lean library add, and you give it the name of your project and provide it with the library you'd like to use. I'm just going to use an example of using a machine learning library. As you see, it finds the library and adds it to my project. And now on compilation, that library is available and will be included in my project. For Python, it's pretty similar. Lean library add, and you say what project you're going to use. Let's use my BTC buy as an example. We'll add Altair. Creates an environment specifically for this library, and we'll use that. And if you add any other ones to this same project, it'll just stack it onto the same folder. As you can see, it appears in my requirements file. You can define exactly which library you'd like to use. But yeah, it's all localized to the project and specific. The interface is the same, just know what libraries you're asking for. Obviously, you can't mix a C# library with a Python project. But yeah, it's very intuitive.
Thank you so much for the walkthrough, Colton. We really appreciate it. It's really awesome to see the Lean GUI coming together. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And we're releasing the Lean GUI in a sort of soft launch. We haven't formally announced it yet, so you are on the inside group. Please check it out and let us know your feedback. You can see it buried in the pricing page at the moment. And yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback and see where we can